Hey, friends, welcome to another episode of Not Your Mama's podcast. The title of this episode is Overcoming Mom Guilt Through Theta Healing. In this episode, we are speaking with Emily Miotto, who is a Theta Healing practitioner and alchemy coach. Emily helps her clients identify their beliefs and then reprogramming them to live their truest and most authentic self. She is also the host of Awaken the Wisdom podcast. Emily, it's such an honor to have you on. I'm excited to talk about mom guilt. But before we get into it, can you give the audience a little bit more about your background and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on this episode. I'm so excited to talk about this. Anything to do with healing the mind and body, I'm super excited about. So, a little bit about me, I actually started off my journey through physical dis-ease. So, I was diagnosed with celiac disease and I went through the why is this happening? Why can't I overcome it? And I switched over to more of a holistic approach to healing. And through that, I found the practice of theta healing, in which case it reprogrammed the beliefs that were keeping the dis-ease recreating every single day within my body.
Mhm.
But beyond that, I was able to also reprogram so many other beliefs that I was seeing impacting all parts of my life. And it was like those spiritual goosebumps going through me saying, this is my practice. This is what I'm meant to do to help other people. And now, 5 years later, I do this as a full-time job, entrepreneur of Theta Healing, Alchemy coaching, which is pretty much a dismantling of all those inner workings and stories we tell ourselves about what we should do, what we shouldn't do to allow us to live our freest life.
Yeah. No, I love that. So go into depth more. Like, what is theta healing? Like, what do you do with yourself? Explain it a little bit more. I'm very curious. I've never really heard of it before.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a newer energy healing modality, but theta healing allows us to access the subconscious mind through altering your brainwave states to theta. And theta is almost like a meditative state. So for myself, for my clients, it pretty much feels like a meditation for the whole practice and technique of reprogramming. And through this theta healing practice, we dig into the subconscious to find that deep rooted belief that everything else is kind of layered upon us, right? And usually this occurs between the ages of 0 to 7 when we are seeing how our parents are acting, how relationships, friendships, school, and we build the idea of what our limit is, what allows us to feel the safest.
Mhm.
And so by reprogramming and simply, I guess for some people it may feel a little bit woohoo. For others, it's based on just pure science and neuroscience, right, and quantum physics. But it's simply in by accessing this brainwave state, we can pull out those beliefs that are no longer serving us, and then simply tell our brain that we are going to be living by a new programming.
Mhm.
So a lot of my clients come with the belief, for example, of I'm unlovable, right? And so it fosters into toxic relationships, maybe self-sabotage. And by simply reprogramming that deep belief, well, now they're open to self-care, to meditation, to attracting healthy, conscious relationships, setting boundaries. And so this practice is very powerful for creating these sustainable changes in your life because you're working with the 95% subconscious mind instead of doing all action-based things that only work with the 5% conscious mind,
Mhm.
right? So it's allowing us to do so much more inner work with less effort.
Yeah, the subconscious mind is extremely powerful. And I don't think we give it credit on how powerful it really is.
No, no, we don't. I didn't even realize the power of it until I was able to see that my body physically changed by changing certain beliefs. And I said, whoa, okay, if this is possible, what else is possible that we just haven't tapped into yet?
No, that's amazing. I love it. So, using that practice, how can, mamas work through reprogramming the mom guilt belief and how can they become a priority again in their lives without the guilt and shame of like being a bad mom?
Yeah, so it comes down to, like I mentioned with theta healing, what are those beliefs that are keeping us tied to feeling this guilt?
Hmm.
Right. So a lot of the times, and this is a practice that if anyone who is listening or watching to do right now is asking yourself this one question of what is the worst thing that would happen if I let go of guilt? If I was able to prioritize myself, what's the worst thing that would happen? Because the way the subconscious mind works is that it does what it does to keep us safe, right? Even though as an adult, we say, okay, I want to prioritize myself. I want to live my life guilt-free. There's a part of us deep within us that was, again, created from childhood potentially that says it's actually not safe because I may be unlovable, I may be hurt, I may be silenced and not be seen, all of these different beliefs that pile up, that it's actually safer for us to stay in guilt and to put others before ourselves than it is to prioritize our life, right? So it's an asking yourself, what's the worst thing that would happen if you prioritize yourself? And then when you have that answer, ask the question again and again and again and again. And you will find you will come down to one of the three primary beliefs. And I actually have a quiz for people to just take if you want to add that in as well. It's a free quiz that you find out what your deep core belief is. And it will come down to I am unlovable, I am alone, or I am not good enough / unworthy. And so when you do this process called digging, which we actually do in Theta Healing sessions, you will find out that core belief that you can work from there now instead of trying to figure out, well, why can I not feel guilty? Or why can I stop myself from feeling guilty? Right now you find that core belief and you work from that energy. So now it's a lot easier. There's less resistance there than, again, the 5% conscious mind saying, I want to change, I want to change. And the 95% saying it's never going to happen because it's unsafe.
Yeah.
Right? You kind of lessen that gap to allow you to now take those conscious practices with the support of now a new belief saying, you know what, it actually feels safer to prioritize myself.
Yeah. And when you prioritize yourself, you actually show up better for your children, for your husband, your partner, whoever it is, your parents, your cousins. Now, I think a lot of moms suffer with work guilt. Where do you think that can like stem from is when a woman is suffering mom guilt through, going after their career, starting up a business? What advice do you have for those moms?
I'm just going to do a little channeling for everyone here, as that's the best way to find the answer for me. So the message that I got was to actually come back to your why, right? Why are you doing this? Why are you investing in work so much, right? Why are you wanting to be with your kids more, feeling that guilt? As a child, I always asked the question of why. Why is the sky blue? Like, tell me why. I want to know. And so by asking these questions, we open up our mind to solutions instead of problems, right? So the problem is I feel the guilt. I want to go to work, but I also want to be with my kids, right? I want to be successful, but I also want to feel like a good parent. So in asking the question why, it can redirect us back to our purpose and our intention for what we are doing. I know that for a lot of my clients who are moms who are dealing with this energy, it again comes down to their childhood experience and watching their parents and their relationship with their mom. So I also suggest that for everyone to start doing that introspection of how did they feel love from their mom? Was there a lack of that potential love from their mom? In which case, start doing that work on yourself, because then it will help you detach from the past, right? In which case you're trying to prevent from happening again with your kids. And allowing you to now create those new patterns that says, it's okay for me to go to work. I know that I'm still a good mom when I go to work. I know I'm still a good mom and I'm still a good person and I'm still good enough by putting myself first, by waking up early and meditating, or saying to the kids, I got to go do some yoga. Do you want to come with me? Or whatever it could be, right? A lot of the time that does come down to the good enough belief. So I'd say really work on where did that come from? Why are you still holding on to it? And that will allow more of that introspection, more of that digging within the subconscious mind to allow you to again make those changes.
Hey friends, I hope you are enjoying this week's episode of Not Your Mama's podcast. This podcast would not be possible if it wasn't for the support of you, my wonderful community. To support Your Mama's podcast, please click the support link right down below and you can donate just as little as 99 cents. Also, follow me in the Shop Like to Know It app, where you can follow me with all my exclusive content, all the way from baby products I love, fashion and style, and everything in between. Now, let's get back to the episode. No, that's great advice. So, what are some takeaways that moms and dads can do right now to help improve their guilt, their shame, whatever it is going on? What is some actionable items that someone can apply to their life right now?
What I tell all of my clients is the first thing in the morning, make sure you do something for yourself, right? I always say, okay, I'm going to wake up earlier, even if I have to wake up a half hour earlier, an hour earlier, because as soon as you put yourself first, you're setting yourself up for the day that says, I know that I'm taken care of. So there's less of that guilt, less of that resistance, even less of that resentment that comes with, okay, I have no time for myself, but now I feel guilty taking time. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I always say, get up that hour earlier. It may be a struggle at the beginning, but once you get into that pattern, you actually have more energy. You actually have more love. You keep your heart open, because as soon as your cup is filled up, now you don't have to pull or pour from your cup to your family and friends. Now it's okay, I filled up mine. Now you can take my reserve,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm taken care of. So I always say, start your morning off with you.
Yeah, no, that's great. I noticed too with myself when I do wake up in the morning, like let's say 5 before the kids wake up, unless they happen to wake up with me, and I'm able to get my workout in, I listen to my I am affirmations, I'm such a better mood boost woman. Like I feel like I'm on high, like I got breakfast already on the table for everybody. And I'm out the door faster with the kids. And when I don't do that and I miss those days, I feel guilty that I miss those days and I'm hard on myself. And I notice that I'm just not as enthusiastic about the day. And I've been really taking note of that within my own life. And it really is important to fill up your cup first. And it is hard at first because sometimes, I'm just like, I don't want to get up at 5. I went to bed at 11 and my kid woke me up, like 3 to 4 times through the night. Like I need to get my sleep. So I do
Mm-hmm.
think it's important that like we do get our rest as well. But, I definitely agree with filling up your cup first. It's extremely important. I think for anybody, whether you're a mom, you're a dad, even a single person, like
Mm-hmm.
out on the grind doing your work or whatever it is.
And the beautiful thing is that with theta healing, we're able to access that primal brainwave state easily, right? But we also dip into this state so naturally throughout our day. And one of those time slots is right in the morning. So you can actually start to do this reprogramming. And if you set yourself up for the morning of, I love myself, I'm grateful, like you said, the I am affirmations, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Now you're actually reprogramming your mind unconsciously, but it's actually helping you to be a better mom, better friend, better daughter, better worker.
Totally. So before I get into my 4 questions that I ask all my first time guests, what is something that we should take away right now from this talk? What is something, any last words that you have for us?
Hmm. My last words is knowing that you can consciously create your life. You can choose a new way of living. You're never stuck. If you ever feel stuck, it's because your soul knows what the path is for the highest and greatest good for you, but that fear is holding you back. So this is something I tell all my students as well is love over fear, right? Ask yourself, am I acting and living through fear or love? And then choose a path of love.
Yeah. I kind of think like this is just my thought that if you want to go after something and it scares you, it's probably meant for you.
Mm-hmm.
So just go after it. And if your dreams don't scare you, then you're not dreaming big enough for yourself.
Yeah.
It's kind of like counterintuitive, but if it scares you and you kind of feel like you want to go for it, just do it. Go for it because it is most likely meant for you and your destiny and whatever your purpose is here on earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I totally believe that as well, because the only reason why we would stop in that fear is because our subconscious is saying we've hit a limit, right? I don't know what's in the unknown. But as soon as you follow through, for example, for moms, as soon as you choose yourself and wake up in the morning, no matter how much you fear what's going to happen, if you dip into that mom guilt or if you choose yourself, the freedom on the other side is so worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And you continue to grow and expand, and then you look back and say, what was I actually scared of?
Yeah.
Right.
I was talking to my grandma. I want her to move to Las Vegas and be closer to family because she is like all by herself, and she has her own paradigms and stuff. And, when people are like actively looking for the grass is greener on the other side, like let's say if you're in a relationship and you think the grass is greener on the other side, normally it's not. But if you take that leap of faith, the grass could be greener on the other side. Does that make sense? Um,
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense in my mind, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, the grass is greener on the other side if you're just taking a leap of faith and you're going at it with the right intention. Um,
Yeah.
then it can be greener because you normally we take that phrase and we think of it as like a negative connotation, like the grass isn't always greener on the other side, but
Mm-hmm.
the grass could be greener. And I was trying to explain that to her, like, what if the grass is greener on the other side?
Yeah.
Like you have nothing to lose and it's all with good intention and it's coming from a place of love. Who knows what the field would look like for you? You can have beautiful flowers and really tall green grass, and it could be
Mm-hmm.
the best decision you've ever made in your life. So I do think that people need to think of the grass is greener on the other side in a positive way when you're going at it with good intention.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I love that.
Yeah. So I have 4 questions that I ask all my first time guests. And my first question to you is who and what inspires you?
Okay. So this is one that just came forward for me. So my highest self, my future self is actually what inspires me. So seeing the version of myself that I want to become, that's what inspires me every day to step into her and be her and show up as her and embody her. Yeah, so my future self.
I love that answer. That's gonna be my new answer is my future self. I know, I love that. Okay, so my second question is, what is something you wished you knew when you were younger?
I wish that I knew how powerful of a being I actually am, and to know that I get to choose how I live my life. I get to choose everything about my life, how I feel, how I think, that every time I'd say I don't know or I can't do this, it was actually just my fear. And I was really this infinite being of potential.
Yeah, that's a good answer. And then my third question is, what's the essential part of your daily routine?
Theta healing, obviously. And
Obviously.
slash meditation. So I actually meditate 3 times a day, and I try and do about an hour each.
Oh, wow.
And one of those is sitting down with my thoughts and literally reprogramming all of them, right? And so I'll reflect on my day of, okay, what triggered me? What do I feel like I'm being blocked with? And I'll do that reprogramming on myself every day. And I have found that being in this beautiful state of theta has allowed me to connect with my highest self and universal wisdom and higher levels of consciousness to continue to progress forward past that fear and choose love.
Yeah. So, my last question to you is the best advice you've ever received.
Hmm. The best advice I have ever received. The message that came forward was choose me. And how fitting is that for this podcast episode?
Right? I mean, it is. I mean, you have to choose yourself because no one else is going to choose it for you. You can't rely on other people
Mhm.
to fill up that cup or fill the void of like what you're missing on the inside. You have to choose yourself because there's no one's going to choose you.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was channeled too. So I was like, I'm gonna take and sit and meditate with that as well, because I think that's actually a beautiful message that I never even realized that I had received that message. So thanks for this podcast episode for that new aha moment for me.
Well, yeah, well, someone's meant to hear it. That's
Mhm.
why I started this podcast, was to help inspire women, and men to go after their dreams, be the best person they can, give them the tools that they need to thrive and go after those goals. Like each speaker is going to resonate differently with each person. So, that answer could be just what someone needed to hear. And it's amazing how the universe brings people together and creates conversations and spits out new words. Choose me.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Emily, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was such an honor to have you on. If anyone is interested in reaching out to Emily, I have all of her links down below in the show notes. Don't be shy. Reach out to her. I think that Theta Healing is totally revolutionary and something that can really help all of us work through and reprogram whatever is going on subconsciously in our mind. Do you have any last words before we say bye?
Just thanks so much for this opportunity. And I hope that it did make an impact on at least one person to prioritize themselves.
Perfect. All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening to another episode of Not Your Mama's podcast, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Not Your Mama's podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next one.